Your Pandora Premium session has ended, but all your playlist songs and albums will be waiting for you when you return. Search.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. We will begin shortly, so sit back and enjoy your coffee. We've got a great program for you today. Just one housekeeping reminder for your optimal viewing. We'll encourage you to select the speaker view on your Zoom screen there. Just select speaker view, and that will help you see our speakers at their best. Again, welcome, and we will begin shortly. Good morning, folks. We're going to wait just a couple of more minutes for people to get signed on. We all know that the internet can be a little slow, and I'm receiving some emails that people are trying to get logged into our webinar this morning. So again, welcome, and we'll get started shortly.
Reagan, I've gotten 2 different text messages, so I think we need to tell people in order to select speaker view, it's in the top right-hand corner.
Yes.
And I think maybe somebody, well, this person said they don't have that option. I'm not sure. And then I have another person who said that maybe they don't know how to turn on their picture. So
I was just going to do some friendly reminders. So thank you for that, Lisa. Yes, so the speaker view option is in the top right. So if you currently have gallery and you're seeing several different wonderful women on your screen right now, if you'll go up towards the right, and something called speaker view should appear when you move your mouse. If you'll select that, then you would only see me right now as I'm the one that's speaking. So continue to work on that. If you have any trouble, you can always shoot me a chat in the chat bar, or Jenna, Kelly, and Andrea, all on our staff are all with us today. So if you have any trouble, you can send them a private chat. Remember, you are joining this as a webinar, so you, our attendees, do not have the video function available. We will have audio enabled during the Q&A sessions, but for now, everyone, all of our attendees are muted, and there's no video enabled for you all. So the women that you are seeing on our screen now are some of our wonderful speakers that will be with you throughout the day today. Again, we're going to give everyone just a few more minutes, maybe a few more seconds actually, and then Allison Gant, our event chair, is going to kick us off this morning.
Okay, I feel like singing.
That'd be delightful.
I said, everybody's quiet. I feel like singing. You know, like we used to do in the Girl Scouts. Girl Scouts, you know, you be singing stuff. Everybody together. I was like, okay.
Gail, that would be a bonus for us today. And with that, I'm going to throw it over to Allison Gant, and we're going to get started today.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. How exciting it is to have our first virtual Roar. My name is Allison Gant, and I do serve as the chair of the Virtual Women's Symposium today. On behalf of the Alamance Chamber staff and the Women's Symposium Planning Committee, I welcome you to this bonus Virtual Women's Symposium event. This year's event did not go off as planned, but today we are here to learn and to support each other. At this time, I want to thank all of our sponsors that have supported this event today and have committed to supporting the 2021 event. Our presenting sponsor is Cone Health. Our event sponsor is Pinnacle Wealth Partners. Our marketing partner is Ethos Creative Group. Our event advocates include Impact Alamance, Clover Garden School, Pepper Moon Catering. Our stage sponsor, which you'll see that when you come to our 2021 event, is Green and McClure Furniture. And then our corporate sponsors include Glen Raven Incorporated, Alamance Community College, Samet Corporation, Wells Fargo, American National Bank and Trust, Prime Personnel Resources, Ralph Scott Life Services, Burlington Pediatrics, and Comtech. And then we do have additional sponsors such as Tapco Underwriters, the Alliance Convention Center, and Michael C. Schaffner Farm State Insurance Agency. At this time, I would just like to extend a huge thank you to our Women's Symposium Planning Committee. You will see these lists of fabulous women on your screen. This group of women works tirelessly every year to ensure this event is of the highest value for its attendees. I also want to take just a moment to recognize our chamber staff, Reagan Gorell, Kelly Roberts, Jenna Hyatt, and Andrea Fleming, who all support this event. Now, Jenna and Andrea are behind the scenes, but Reagan and Kelly are right out front keeping this committee on task. And trust me, that's a challenge. At this time, I'm going to invite you to join me in an activity to get our minds jumping starting this morning. So open your minds and your creativity and think about this question. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why? So in the chat bar, it's open and we invite you to share your answer and I will give you mine. And because we're in such a crazy time, I think mine would be able to see into the future, to see where we're going to be anywhere from a week to 3 weeks to 6 months to a year. So as we're challenged in this time, both in our workplace or our home lives, that would be my hope, is that I could see into the future to know that there is hope and that we will continue forward strongly. So drop in your superpower into the chat and your why. I'll give you just a second or two.
Allison, we can also invite some of our speakers who you can see on the screen to, if they want to unmute, they can share what their superpower would be. I think some of our attendees may be interested in hearing from them. Not to put you all on the spot or anything.
Absolutely. So panelists, if you want to jump in and talk about your superpower, go for it.
I'll go ahead and speak. Mine's kind of silly, but my superpower would be to function without sleep.
That's a good one.
Because if we could function without sleep, imagine how much more we could, potentially get done and continue being amazing women.
I love that. I'd like to function better without, I already do the without sleep part. I'd just like to function better without the sleep. My superpower would be healing.
My superpower would be to erase hate and ignorance. To erase hate and ignorance so and everybody could hear and see each other. If you erase hate and ignorance, all the rest of stuff, we'd have more time. We wouldn't mind it. We can go without sleep, but to erase hate.
Yeah, Lisa, I agree with you on the healing one, particularly with cancer and all the conditions that are out there that we don't have cures for. That would certainly be one that I would choose for myself.
I like the healing and the teleportation. I definitely love to travel and would love to be able to get there faster across the ocean and wherever, but healing, definitely.
All right,
all
mine's
of you
a lot
out there.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say, mine is a lot lighter. I want to be Mary Poppins. I want to snap my fingers and clean my house. And just do things right and left.
Yep.
I like that, Jamie.
Allison, I was going to say, if you don't mind, I would love to call attention to some of the shares in our chat bar. And yesterday, or day before yesterday, Kelly and I had the opportunity to meet with two of our fabulous speakers today, and you're going to hear from them a little later. And we talked a lot about bravery. And so I have to give claps for all of the women that are brave enough to share here in the chat bar. I'm seeing the word healing a lot. One of our, Carrie, wants to fly because she'd love to see the world that way. And I love the fact that everyone is being brave enough to share with all of you. So please take time to scroll through that bar and see some of these amazing superpowers. I'd love to have them all. Could that be my superpower, to have all of them?
Sure. Well, you're a superwoman anyway, Reagan, so. All right, everyone, before we dive into our program, this is a great opportunity for you to refresh your coffee, grab some water, and then we're going to get right into our first session. So I'm going to give you about 60 seconds if you need to walk to the coffee pot or take a quick break, and we will be right back, and I'm timing now. All righty. That was perfect. So at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Lisa Pennington. She is the Chief of Community and Corporate Wellbeing for Cone Health. Lisa is here today speaking on the behalf of Cone Health as our presenting sponsor. Lisa? I think you're on mute, Lisa.
And first one to do it.
It's okay.
I'll make it easier for everybody else now. So good morning. It really is my pleasure to be here and to welcome you on behalf of Cone Health. We eagerly and excitedly jumped at the opportunity 5 years ago to be the presenting sponsor of this event. It's an important value at Cone Health that we provide opportunities for all of our employees to thrive and to be the best versions of themselves that are possible. And events like this just underscore the importance of taking time to, especially for women, taking time to learn from other women and to share our vulnerabilities and our questions. So again, I'm not going to give you an advertisement for Cone Health. I just want to say how excited we are to continue to be the premier sponsor for this really wonderful event, and you really have a treat in store for you today. Welcome on behalf of Cone Health. You want me to go forward now?
Yes, Lisa's going to introduce us to our first panelist. So Lisa, take it away.
Thank you so much. I am delighted to introduce you to my colleague, who is also my friend, Jamie Athas. Jamie has an undergraduate degree in psychology from Wake Forest University, master's degree in public health from the University of Arizona, and a master's degree in exercise science and health promotion from California University of Pennsylvania. She's been working at Cone Health in various positions since 2007, and she is currently responsible for system-wide wellness programming. It's really more than just wellness programming for our employees. Her team is also responsible for wellness programming for a number of our business partners, as well as for HTA, which is Cone Health's Medicare Advantage plan. So Jamie is a very, very busy woman. The program specifically the internal program is called Live Life Well, and the program for Health Team Advantage is Living Plus. Jamie is an AFAA certified group exercise instructor and a certified health education specialist. She enjoys spending her free time really, running, keeping up with her 4 children, and attempting any DIY project. So again, it is my pleasure to introduce Jamie Athas.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate being here today. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and bring up my presentation here. All right. So today we're going to talk about self-care. And I really want you to take these 15 minutes really just to be all about you. We're going to talk about how it's time to move you to center stage, and really we're going to fill up those tires. I'll tell you a little bit more about what that means in a second. So what is self-care, right? It's the buzz term. We're all talking about it. We need to do self-care. We need to exercise. We need to eat better, whatever, right? We hear all of that. But really, what is self-care? Well, self-care is not something that we set aside, right? We often think, well, when the kids are grown, when I'm done with school, when maybe my relationship's better, or my bills are less, or what, right? My schedule changes, there's always something. And then we say, and then I'll focus on me, right? And then I'll do this. But really, self-care is not this big thing that sits off to the right or the left, right? It's something that's really part of what we can do every day that allow us to really fuel ourselves, right? It's what builds that energy and resilience. It's not some big thing that happens. I'm here to challenge you, I guess, to think of what are the little tiny things that you can do every day that are going to help to keep you in the game. So I like this saying, you can't reach for anything new if your hands are still full of yesterday's junk, right? I think that's just a good reminder. Self-care is a great way to empty out that bag. Right? And remember, self-care looks different for everybody. Somebody might love yoga and somebody might hate it, right? Another person might love Zumba. Another person may love reading, right? It looks and feels different for everyone. And really, it's the most important thing is that you can really take the time to figure out what works for you and be open to trying all different kinds of things. And really, again, this is essential to keeping our bodies and minds functioning. We think we can get away with it. We think, oh, I don't need to take care of myself, or I feel selfish taking time for me, all of these other things. And then all of a sudden, wham, it hits us, right? We're exhausted, we're tired, we're stressed, and we're running on empty. So how can we fill up our buckets? How can we get our tanks more towards full? And where in the world do we start? So first, I'd like you to go, this is your time to get up and move for a second. Go grab a piece of paper and grab a pen. I'll give you, you get 15 seconds here. Get your energy in. All right, to figure out where you can start with self-care, let's figure out how you're doing on your on all the dimensions of wellness, because self-care really encompasses all of them. You know, if your financial health is really struggling, it's going to affect your physical health, which is going to affect your emotional health, right? These are all connected. So let's see kind of where would be a good place for you to start. So this is the wheel, the wellness wheel, I like to refer to it as. On your paper, go ahead and draw a big circle. And break it up into 8 sections, just like it is on the screen. Put a big bullseye right in the middle. As I describe each of the dimensions of wellness, if you are a 1, that means you're like, oh gosh, did she really have to ask me about that? It's been years, right? If you're a 10, you're like, yep, I got it. I'm killing it. I'm in the groove. I've been doing this. I feel great about it. And remember, there's no right or wrong answers. It doesn't mean that we're all going to be at 10 all the time, or we might have a lot of ones at 1 or 2. Totally fine. This is just an exercise to figure out where are some areas I can focus on. Okay, so as I described the dimension, go ahead and rank yourself from 1 to 10. Let's start with physical. Recognizing the need for physical activity or exercise, adequate sleep, and nutrition. How are you doing on there, 1 to 10? All right, emotional wellness. Emotional wellness could be characterized by a stable mood, ability to experience and manage emotions, being accepting of yourself and others, having a positive outlook, hope, and being free from worry. How you doing there? Intellectual wellness. Recognizing creative abilities and finding ways to expand knowledge and skills. You could characterize yourself as a lifelong learner in this if you feel like it's really going well. Financial wellness. Financial wellness is not how much or how little you have in your bank account. It's how satisfied you feel with your current and future financial situation and how much control you feel like you have over it. Environmental wellness. Environmental wellness could mean good health by occupying pleasant, stimulating, safe environments. So you can think about this in your home, in your work, and the places that you visit. Do you feel safe? Do you feel comfortable? Do they bring chaos to your life or clarity? Social wellness. Developing a sense of connection, having a good, well-developed support system. Spiritual wellness could be described as expanding our sense of purpose and meaning, It could be defined through various factors, including religious, faith, values, ethics, morals. And lastly, occupational wellness. This could be from your work or from your volunteer work, but finding personal satisfaction and enrichment from one's work, 1 to 10. All right, go ahead and connect your dots there in your circle. Where is your tire flat? Do you have some bumps in your road there? Or do you feel like your tire is all full, or maybe it's really empty? This could be a great way when it comes to where do I focus with self-care? How do I get started? Where's your tire flat? That can be the best way to figure out what you should focus on. And now, what habits can you start that relate to that area of focus? There are so many different ones. I'm going to give you a few of those today, but there's lots of ones. So remember, start with the small things. Self-care is not some big thing you set aside. It's the small daily habits that build that resilience, energy to keep going forward. So the small things. When's the last time did you eat 3 meals in a day? Have you had a glass of water? Our bodies are meant to move. So what if I told you you could have better concentration, energy, sleep, helps tremendously with depression, and you just needed to spend 20 to 30 minutes a day on this? That would be exercise. Exercise can be such a powerful tool in your toolkit. And again, start small. You will be so surprised at how resilient our bodies are and really how much you can do. There's some more in here I've just thrown out. These are just a couple. Trying to stick to a sleep schedule. Making time for reflection, even if it's just 5 minutes. Learning to say no and setting boundaries can be huge. Spending time with people you love. Doing something you aren't good at. It's hard to say, oh gosh, I'm awful at that. Learning to play the piano. Do something you're totally, makes you really uncomfortable. Read or listen to something inspirational. I have something to share with you at the end. And making time away from technology. If environmental was yours, start with just cleaning out a drawer. It'll make you feel so good, and then hit your closet, right? You don't have to start with the whole house. Start small and build on it. But we don't have the time, energy, motivation, and willpower. That's what people usually tell me. I know I need to exercise. I know I need to try to go to sleep earlier. I know I need to, but those are the things, right, that get in the barriers. And I'm here to say, life is not going to slow down. All those things are going to keep coming at us. And so the daily self-care is what can really help us cope with all of those things. I had someone describe it once, and I really liked it. She said, you know, I'm like a battery all day long. I'm sure so many women feel like that. I have energy coming at me. I make decisions on everything. I'm just constantly, energy's coming at me. The kids need something, at work needs something, home needs, it's just constantly. I have to spend a few minutes to myself to push that energy back out to the universe. Find what is your energy release and try to engage in it daily. And remember, willpower is an exhaustible resource. I like to remind folks of that. We think, oh, if I just wanted to get up enough, right, at 5 a.m. and exercise. Well, maybe 5 a.m. is not your thing. That's okay. It doesn't have to be. And the more we have to use willpower in other parts of our lives, we're not going to have it saved. So just know it's not endless. You can only use so much of it. So save it for the things that you really need to spend a lot of willpower on. Try to avoid all or none thinking. So you don't have to exercise 5 days a week for 60 minutes. You can actually miss a whole 2 weeks of exercise and jump right back in it, right? It doesn't have to be this all or none. You can enjoy that great piece of chocolate cake and go on to the next meal and have a great healthy meal. It doesn't have to be all or none. And we often get in that cycle, right? Well, I'll start next week, right? Because I had a quote unquote bad day. don't give power to food. Give it to people and things that you love, right? It doesn't have to be that. You can incorporate all things into a really healthy well-being. I like just to point these out because I think one of the biggest, I'm going to call it a time suck, for lack of better words, of self-care is social media. And I think social media can be great. It connects us in so many ways. And then 1 minute becomes 1 hour. And then all of a sudden our time is gone, or we stayed up really late, or we're out of, our morning routine's all off. So I just put up some tips on here that I think are helpful. I won't go through all of them, but just take a moment and read through those. Maybe one of them connects with you and may help you with how you can have some boundaries when it comes to social media, because social media and technology can really take away the time that we could spend on self-care. So my question to you is, what is the one item you can start with? What is your non-negotiable self-care? What's going to make you show up to work, show up as a mom, as a caretaker, as a sister, as a coworker, whatever it is? What's going to make you show up and be able to be present? Taking that time for yourself is not selfish. It's going to pay dividends on how you show up each day. So take a moment, write it down, start small, change one area at a time. If you can involve someone else, a support system is great. And remember, ask for help. The research shows us that 50% of people that are successful in changing behaviors are asking and doing it with help. And change is difficult, but it's not impossible. It's time for you to move center stage. Make you a priority. All the other things in your life can be and become overwhelming. It's time to say, when is your self-care time on your schedule? And lastly, I just want to leave you with, I think this is a fun little inspirational video. I'm hoping that it will connect here. That you can start this anytime.
Only failure is not to try. She's the Iron Nun, also known as Sister Madonna Judith. At 86 years old, she's broken more barriers than many people half her age, competing in more than 40 Ironman triathlons. A challenge that would still be tough for someone one-fourth her age. Each triathlon consists of a 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and 26.2-mile run. Sister Madonna was first introduced to running when she was 48 years old by a priest who encouraged it as a way to harmonize the mind, body, and soul. Now, Sister Madonna has integrated training into her everyday life. She says she runs to her Spokane, Washington church every day and bikes 40 miles to a lake near her house to swim. The Outbound Nun completed her first triathlon in Ireland in 1982 when she was 52 years old. And in 2005, she became the oldest woman to ever compete in the Hawaii Ironman. The same time, she earned the nickname Iron Nun. More than 10 years later, she's still going strong, pushing for races to open up older age groups where she can compete. Kelly Cosmet. I have opened up about 5 age groups in my life that never existed. In fact, at 82 years old, she broke an Ironman record for the fastest finishing time in the 80-84 age group. It's a record that still stands today. The Iron Nun is becoming even more popular after she was recently featured in a Nike commercial, showing her running, swimming, and biking, Ironman style. The ad celebrates her extraordinary stamina and resilience. Nike said they chose to feature her because she's an athlete who refuses to conform to conventional ideas of age. But that doesn't mean she hasn't faced challenges along the way. She fractured her pelvis while training a few years ago and was unable to complete the Hawaii Ironman triathlon in 2014. But she doesn't plan on quitting anytime soon and wants to remind people that setbacks are not failures. Your effort in itself is a success. Share if you're amazed by Sister Madonna's strength.
So thank you guys so much for being able to join you today. I hope to leave you with the only failure is not to try. So keep working towards incorporating daily self-care into your life. Thank you so much, and have a great program today. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Great job. I'm always inspired by Jamie, and I have to tell you, she is, so Jamie talked about finding the things that motivate you, that you enjoy. Jamie enjoys long runs and mowing the yard. So we are kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum there. And I will tell you, she is still the most motivating and least judgmental person that I know. So thanks again, Jamie. I'm excited now to introduce our next speaker, Virginia Freeman DuPont, and she is going to provide some remarks for us and also lead us in yoga and meditation. So that's something I can participate in. So I'm excited about that. Virginia is a professional dancer, choreographer, and educator from North Carolina. She holds both BFA and MFA degrees in dance performance and choreography, as well as a BA in English from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. A former Greensboro Ballet Company member, DuPont has the good fortune of participating as a performing artist in works by various choreographers, including Jerry Houlihan, Aluza Santos, Rick McCullough, Peggy Visacaro, Melissa Hayden, Tom Clower, and Mary Helen Mayfield. Having first been a company member of the Gamble Van Dyke Dance Company since 1995, she has continued her work as a company member. Oh, my screen's not cooperating. So sorry. Come here. As a company member of both John Gamble Dance Theater and the Van Dyke Dance Group since that time. She currently teaches ballet and pointe as an adjunct faculty member at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, is the artistic director and owner of Burlington Academy of Dance and Arts, serves as a trustee of the Van Dyke Dance Group, and continues to explore her craft by performing, creating, and teaching throughout North Carolina. So I know we're really in for a treat. Virginia, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, and thanks for having me today. So I think this is a perfect segue from what we just got to enjoy. So we are going to do a little bit of movement and meditation through movement and appreciate our bodies and where they are in the moment. And so I'm going to give you a few seconds to get a chair. I see we're mostly sitting in a chair, but maybe a chair that doesn't have arms might be better, and perhaps one that might not roll away with you. So a stable chair that is armless. And if you would get barefoot, that would be best as well if you were not already barefoot. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of time to do that, and then we'll get back together. So about 15 seconds. Okay. So what we want to do is sit in a place where we can plant our feet firmly on the ground, and you can just relax your arms wherever works best for you. If it's not comfortable to get your feet flat on the ground, you can get creative. You can get a towel, pillows to put under your feet. Bring the earth up to you. This can work for anybody at any time. So just appreciate and love our bodies where they are. And so we just want to start by concentrating on breathing and lifting up through the core and the spine, and just standing tall. Find your sits bones, and we're just going to lift our toes off the ground and place them back down. And toes off the ground and place them back down. And again, just the toes and down. And the toes one more time, and this time think about spreading your toes out and planting all four sides of the feet on the earth, on the ground, wherever we happen to be sitting. Another deep inhale and exhale. And now let's take one heel up off the ground. And you may feel some energy in your core support. And that's great. And we can place it down and take the other heel. And back down. And then let's take both one at a time. Feel the changes in your spine. And as we breathe, when we inhale, we may instinctively want to inhale up, but think about the inhale then going down through the body so that it has a down energy. All right, let's take those heels up one more time. Flood yourself with positivity and with love. And now let's just kind of swing one leg back and forth and then take it out whatever height feels good. There's no need for it to be super high, super low, wherever feels good for you, whatever you can access right now. And then let's just stretch through pointer toes and flex our toes and point and flex. And then let's take a gentle circle in one direction, and then our leg can be coming down because we might feel that quad starting to fire up. And then let's take the other leg out, whatever height works for you. Doesn't matter. We'll stretch through the ankle, foot, toes, up through the foot a couple of times. Let's peel through the foot. Just feel energy going out. You can drop your arms. Hands can be wherever is comfortable. And then we'll take a few circles as we lower our leg. And you can go in both directions. Back down. Get comfortable again. It's totally fine to adjust, to wiggle. We don't want to feel stiff. So now let's interlace our hands and take a gentle hug on our knee. If this isn't comfortable, you can come underneath. Again, choose a height that's comfortable for you, but a nice gentle hug. And you can experiment with that here underneath the knee, whatever works for you. And then another idea, if you have a towel nearby, if this isn't accessible to you, you can take a towel underneath and still get that gentle stretch there. But if you will, take your ankle, and we're gonna gently bring this across the other knee. And we'll have a hand on our ankle. You can stretch and move here if you like. And then if you place the other hand on your hip and give a little bit of a downward energy, can gently take some opposition here and stretch that part out. If you want to go a little bit further, which we do not have to push ourselves, you can bring your leg up. So what I'm doing there is I'm coming down to where my arm bends and just hugging my leg, and at whatever level feels good for your body, and come back down. And then we'll come back to that hug place. Again, it can be under the knee or on top, and just super gently let it down. Let's go on to the other leg. We want to have our V8 juice for the day and feel nice and even. So a gentle hug, remembering to be mindful to the breath and take this time to appreciate your life and your body and breathe in love and positive energy. And again, we can adjust wherever we need to be. Any height is fine. Sometimes the weight of the leg in the hands can give a nice gentle stretch in the shoulders, so you can really relax there. And when you're ready, let's take the foot and bring it across the other leg. And you can take a gentle stretch on the foot, place this hand on the hip, and you can have some oppositional stretch and reach. And then if you want some more mobility, you can hang out here, hug that leg in at whatever place works for you, and a gentle release there. We don't have to push it though. Yeah, just listen to your body. And then we can return on top or underneath. Take a gentle stretch out. Maybe that swing again. Just natural movements. And then we'll place it down. Maybe readjust. Take a couple of minutes to breathe light and love in. And be mindful to send it out into the universe when we exhale. You may want to adjust back on your chair, and let's take a gentle, if you have a back to your chair, can take the back of it and your other hand to support yourself and feel this support through the body, and just a gentle spiral through the spine. See what range of motion you have today. Our bodies are always changing and different in the moment, and we should honor where we are in that moment. So let's take the other side. Just a nice gentle, see what kind of mobility and rotation we have in one direction, and then the other, and then we'll return. And check in with our necks. We carry so much tension in our necks and our shoulders. It's good to be mindful of those areas too. So if we drop our chin to our chest, I know I feel some tightness in my upper back. And just breathe into that place. And if you will, gently bring your right ear towards your right shoulder. If I look like I'm going in the opposite direction to you, you could go the opposite direction. Either way, it doesn't matter. And then let's drop forward again. And the other side, the other ear to the other shoulder. And back forward. And let's return. And kind of take the idea of our head being gently pulled upward so our body can dangle underneath. So we have this sense of gentle elongation, not forced. And we take our shoulders up, feel what that tension can manifest in, and then let it back down. Maybe a couple more rolls. Incorporate the breath. Inhale. Exhale. Once more. All right, we're going to manifest some yoga a little bit here in our chair, nice and gentle, and we're going to take the direction that feels best to our body. So I'm going to give you a couple of options. We can actually do warrior here in a chair. So we're going to take a 90-degree angle. First, let's walk our feet to the side and then explore. I want you to really feel like you're supported by the chair. So you can adjust and move as feels best to you, and reach the front leg back. Just kind of see what feels good in terms of range of motion. Now, one thing we can do is plant that foot straight ahead so we have a 90-degree angle. And we can take our warrior arms and extend our longest fingers out into space as far as they can go, and feel that stretch through the body. And this is a great place to remain if this feels good and like enough of a challenge. If you are feeling adventurous, you can scoot back so your thigh is supported by the chair. Reach that foot back again, and you'll find yourself in, I need to adjust. And you really do want to feel completely supported by this chair, but you can get that nice stretch, plant the foot behind you, reach out through the longest fingers. Shoulders are well away from the ears, and we're breathing in and out. We'll gently bring that back together. Make sure you're on your chair. We're going to want to adventure to the other side. So let's walk our feet to the other side. Just explore that back space and adjust as needed. So feel what feels good, reaching the toes behind you. Now, we may choose a 90-degree angle and discover this reach through the arms. We may want to give ourselves a challenge and adjust back on the chair so our thigh is completely supported. Reach the leg back behind us, full foot on the floor, nice stretch through the hip flexor, and reach out. Really taking in an appreciation for our own bodies and what they do for us. And exhale, release the arms. We only get this one body, so it's important that we appreciate it. So let's plant our feet on the floor ahead of us. And we're just going to take one final adventure. And imagine you have a beach ball in front of you that you can round yourself over. And we're just going to start with our head. Bring your chin to your chest. You can round over. And you can take this as far as you like. But think about relaxing through the arms and hands and fingertips and letting your head be heavy. And feel the blood flowing through the body and invigorating our minds. And we can roll up one vertebra at a time. Breathe in, light and love, and exhale, light and love. And we can bring our hands together to finish that practice. And we can always move and meditate in that way or in any gentle way that provides those little steps to feeling better and taking care of ourselves. And I thank you all for having me today and moving together. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. So thank you.
Virginia, thank you so much. That was fantastic. I always love taking time to meditate and do some yoga, and I don't do that often enough. And there were some things, you know, my tire was flat. I wasn't going anywhere. It was bad. So Virginia and Jamie, I want to thank you both so much for being here with us today. I was going through the comments thinking about some things I may want to say as we wrap up this session. I really thought about number one of being mindful about taking time for myself, having those quiet moments to recenter and really connect with my body, because you're right, Virginia, we only get one. And Jamie, I wrote down, what is something I'm going to do for myself that makes me uncomfortable? That really sat with me when you said that, because sometimes being uncomfortable can lead to the most amazing things. I want to thank our attendees for sharing some of their thoughts during both those sessions with Jamie and Virginia. I love that y'all are being brave and saying, hey, you know what? I think it was Dr. Hayes that said, I just started walking and I was sore and I couldn't figure that out. And now I know it was because I was up walking. So at this time for our attendees, the chat bar is open. The Q&A box is open, as well as you have the ability to raise your hand. So if you have any questions for these two fabulous women, now would be the time. And Dr. Hayes, I second that. Yes, thank you both so much for being with us today. We've got some people saying just thank you for helping us relax and take care of ourselves and understand what our bodies need. But if anyone has any questions, Jenna is monitoring the hand raising, and we would encourage you to do that. So we had someone say that this was their first chair experience and it worked. Yay! We're glad it worked. I agree. A lot of people are saying they needed this mini yoga today. Any questions that you all may have for Jamie or Virginia? It's a lot of praise, ladies. You gave us a lot of information that we're going to storm out and do better about taking care of ourselves. All right, so if there are no questions, I would like to leave everyone with one thought before we take a short break. If you're like me, I've had a lot of caffeine this morning. I need a short break. So the question I want to leave you with is, are there any habits in regards to the way that you take care of yourself that you can improve? As you were listening to Jamie and Virginia, jot those down and make that a goal for yourself as you go away today after absorbing all of this information that these wonderful speakers are giving us. Think about that. What habits can you break to do better for yourself? So with that, I'm going to leave you all for about a 15-minute break, and we will come back here at about 10:10 to get our next session started. You're not going to want to miss it. We've got Tammy and Sylvia with us for an amazing discussion on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's going to be great, so don't miss it. We'll see you all back here in about 10 minutes.
So we'll gather everyone back. We have about another minute or so to get settled, and then we're going to move right into the next portion of our program. So we welcome you back, and we'll get started in about 35 seconds. All righty. We are going to move into the next portion of our program. What a great start to our morning. Again, thank you to Jamie and to Virginia for sharing the wonderful insights on how we can get balanced and then how we can take care of our bodies. I would like to take a moment to welcome Angie Hall and Aaron Cockman from Pinnacle Wealth Partners, who also are our event partners for this ROAR virtual event. And they are going to share a little bit about Pinnacle and then Wealth, and then they're going to introduce the next section of our program. So ladies, take it away.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes, I'm Erin Cockman, and this is Angie Hall here with me. And we are the proud owners of Pinnacle Wealth Partners. We're located just past Harris Teeter in Burlington. We're speaking to you today from our conference room, and most of the time folks don't get to see the conference room on these virtual events, but we feel like it's symbolic of how we are as people and as financial planners, because a lot of folks tell us that our office is very warm and welcoming, and we would like to think that we are as people as well. There are just a few things that I'd like to share with you about our firm. We are a female-owned business, and actually our whole staff is female. But please don't mistake that with the fact that we do work with men as clients. We do not just work with women. So please feel free to send all the men in your life our way to help them with their investments and finances. Second, we are a full service investment firm, which means that we are both licensed with investments, life insurance, and long-term care. And we're able to offer you many services such as college planning, retirement planning, executive compensation, as well as the life insurance and long-term care that I'd mentioned. And we can help you also evaluate and make wise decisions with any debt that you're carrying. And third, I'd like to just point out that we are an independent firm, which means that we're able to offer services and products from many of our partners. We are not obligated to use any of our proprietary products. So we're trying to keep it kind of simple, but the main thing we'd like for you to take away from this today is that we would love the opportunity to meet you and to see if there's anything that we can help you with as you're working on your finances. It's a part of all of our lives, so we know you all in some way have, are dealing with finances, and if there's anything that we can do to help you, we would love the opportunity. We both offer free initial consultations, so please don't hesitate to maybe check out our website, and you can reach either of us through that. And the website is pinnaclewealthnc.com. You're also welcome to reach out to us through the chat bar there. And I would be remiss to not mention that in all the papers this morning that I saw, there's articles about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and how she is the first woman and the first Jewish person to lie in state in the Capitol today. So I think that's pretty special, considering that this is an all female event, and that is a first. As we're always here to celebrate accomplishments for women, as well as, of course, all the different races and ethnicities. So just want to point out a couple more things that we have to thank Ruth Bader Ginsburg for. Before her, state-funded schools didn't have to admit women, and women couldn't sign a mortgage or have a bank account without a male cosigner. And she also made great strides towards equal pay. We're not there yet, but she still made great strides in helping us get closer to closing the wage gap. And she made it cool to be a confident, hardworking female leader. So we all just want to take a minute just to show our appreciation and thanks to RBG for all that she did in her career, in her life, personally and professionally. And last but not least, just want to close with a quote. People often become what they believe themselves to be. If I believe I cannot do something, it makes me incapable of doing it. But when I believe I can, then I acquire the ability to do it, even if I didn't have it in the beginning. And that's from Gandhi. Now I'm going to turn it over to Angie, who's going to introduce our next speakers.
So thank you for having us this morning. We're so excited to introduce this next session, which is focused on social injustice, specifically diversity and inclusion. But first, just a few quick highlights about our moderator and guest speaker. Our moderator today is Tammy Myrick, who is the Director of Marketing, People, and Culture at Cone Health, where she leads the strategic marketing and communications efforts for the division, including development of an employer's brand. She's been with Cone for 9 years and has held many progressively responsible roles in marketing and communications. She has the ability to communicate concisely and transparently in a way that both honors the people involved while acknowledging how everyone can come together to support the greater good, the overall strategy, and the goals at hand. Her ability to synthesize complex matters into concise and clear nuggets enables her to communicate effectively and put words into action. Tammy's education includes a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and currently is enrolled at East Carolina University as an MBA student with an anticipated graduation of spring of 2021. Our guest speaker today is Sylvia Munoz, who is the Associate Director of Center for Race, Ethnicity, and Diversity Education and the Director of El Centro at Elon University. In her role, she is part of a team that aims in creating a supportive environment for unprecedented racial and ethnic students. She leads race and ethnicity education efforts and coordinates student diversity education alliances with the campus offices and faculty that have specialized expertise in specific social identities and or in concepts of justice and equity. Whew, mouthful. As a student-centered administrator, Sylvia has a passion for mentoring students and encourages students to engage in reflective thinking, and she's invested in the holistic education of those students and guides them to become self-advocates. Sylvia's education includes a Bachelor of Arts in English from the University of Costa Rica, and she has a Master's in Business Administration from Elon University. So get ready to engage in a conversation around social injustice, specifically focusing on diversity and inclusion. But first, allow yourself to broaden your mindset on this very important topic. And remember, in today's current environment, this mindset is more important than ever. But before we start this session, we would like for you to think about this one question. When you hear that word diversity, what comes to mind? The two ladies joining us today are experts on this topic, and we are honored to introduce Tammy Myrick and Sylvia Munoz.
Thank you, Angie. Hi, Sylvia.
Hey, Tammy, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing great. This is kind of weird, but we're gonna wing it.
We're gonna rock this, right? Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but I was really excited when the chamber invited us to have this conversation. And you know, when we were prepping for this, we admitted that, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion, social injustice, those are very broad, deep, complex topics, right?
Yeah.
And probably something we won't be able to tackle fully today. But as we think about what we want to share with attendees as part of this symposium is, you know, making sure that we have a good starting point and recognizing that, you know, in relation to diversity, equity, and inclusion, everyone's on a journey, right? So we've got to meet people where they are. I just want to share a little bit of context also. So if we consider this journey that we're all on, in preparation again for this session, you said we can't guarantee a safe space, but we can guarantee a brave space.
Absolutely. I think that when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's hard not to feel a little bit vulnerable, right? I mean, whether we are, maybe because whether we identify within the minoritized communities or the majoritized communities, right? I mean, we tend to feel a little bit vulnerable. There's a little bit of guilt sometimes in the issues that are happening right now. So I always say whenever we do trainings here at Elon with the students that we cannot guarantee a safe space, right? I mean, I wish we could, but we can't. These topics are hard sometimes. Sometimes they're uncomfortable. They're very uncomfortable as well. But we want to provide a brave space, right? And we want to engage in a conversation where, as you said, it's really important when we talk about social justice and about equity, inclusion, and diversity, that we are in different spaces, right? And I see social justice as a continuum. There's people that are on one end of the continuum. There's people that are on the other end. I don't think, we don't believe, and I don't believe that you will ever arrive, right? I mean, I think that some people say, well, you're an expert on this or you're an expert on that. I'm like, in terms of social justice, we will never arrive, right? I mean, we will always continue to learn and continue to engage with people who are different, right? So I think that it's very important to be aware that when we engage in conversation like this, that we go from a place of when we ask questions, that we go from a place of curiosity and really trying to understand what other people's perspectives are. I always say that I always assume good intention, right? I mean, when people ask questions, I think that it's very important to go from a place from, I always assume good intention. I don't assume that people are trying to be mean or trying to be, like to be disrespectful. So I think that going from that place is important. It is really important to listen, but listen to understand, not listen to see what you're going to respond, right? I mean, we have the tendency when we have conversations, and we hope that this conversation today gives you also a little bit of strategies on how to engage in conversation about these topics in your work, within your families, with friends. So it's really important always to listen, right? I mean, listen to understand and to hear what somebody else has to say, and not listen. Sometimes we're listening to see where we're going to respond right away, and that is probably not the best way to go. And then use your own experiences, right? I mean, I can only speak for my own experience. I cannot speak. I identify as a Latina woman, but I cannot speak for all Latino women, right? I mean, I can only speak from my own personal experience, and I think it's really important for everybody to speak from that individual sense of experiences as well. I think that the other thing is to really clarify what these terms mean, right? I think that many times when we use the word diversity, it's a coded word, right? I mean, when we hear diversity, we go straight to people of color, right? I mean, that's, if you are in a place that's like, oh, there's diversity in these places because you see some melanin in the room, right? And we need to really make sure that when we talk about diversity, diversity by itself, the meaning of diversity is just the presence of difference, right? It's understanding that each individual is unique, and that it's recognizing that all of our individual differences as well. These can be alongside dimensions of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, ability, whether it's physical or mental, age, any of the social identities, right? Now, I'm going to be clear that especially, and it's very obvious right now, race and ethnicity is one of those social identities that really determine a lot of outcomes in the different systems, right? Within this country, race and ethnicity is probably one of those social identities that are so important and so controversial right now, right? I mean, so it is important to recognize that. But when we talk about diversity, it's just the mere presence of difference, right? Now, I also believe that just the mere presence of diversity is not enough to enrich somebody's knowledge and somebody's life, right? I mean, you have to intentionally engage within that diversity, right? You have to really be intentional in learning about the diversity of other people in the different areas, right? Whether it's at work, whether it's with your friends, whether it's in your church, in any of your social environments, you really have to engage within that. And then once you do that, then you create opportunities, especially for those that are in marginalized populations, to have equal access, right? And to participate in these programs so that we're able to really close those gaps that happen among the different populations or the different communities. And that's what equity is.
So those are all really great nuggets. And what I've heard from you is a few keywords. So listening, respect, bravery, curiosity, all of these things that I think are critical to conversations of today, right? I've heard time and time over again that we are in the middle of two pandemics. One being COVID-19, of course, which is totally unexpected. And then the other of social injustice that has been, racially charged, ethnically charged recently. But, we know these aren't new conversations, right? They've just been highlighted recently because of current events across our nation and outside of our area as well. So let's talk a little bit more about those fundamental elements again. So you described diversity, so the presence of difference. How do you relate diversity then to equity and inclusivity? Because I think, again, if we consider everyone's on a different journey and their definitions, they may want to interchange those terms, and those aren't necessarily synonyms. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Again, as I said, diversity by itself, right? I mean, if you look at all these pictures, right, in your screen, there is a lot of diversity within this group, right? But just that by itself is not enough to really say that I am enriched by just seeing the diversity, right? So diversity is just a mere presence of different views, different perspectives, different races, different ethnicities, different cultural backgrounds. All that is right there, right? I mean, diversity. And this country, and I'm originally from Costa Rica, right? So I also have a little bit of a different perspective sometimes, and social justice is a little bit different, right? I mean, it comes up in a different way depending on where you are, right? So I think that for me, it was very interesting. I became a Latina woman here, right? I mean, I never thought about what it was like to be Latina, right? I mean, for me, it's like, oh, now I need to fill out all these forms, and I don't even know what I am, right? I mean, it was very confusing to me. So it is understanding that in this country, we put people in boxes, right? I mean, and we put people in boxes in terms of on what we see as different. When we were talking about this before, I said that I always use this metaphor with our students, that it's very easy for us to judge or not to judge. We all come with biases, right? I mean, we have our own biases. If I see somebody, it is undeniable that the first thing that I'm going to look at is the physical characteristics of the person, right? I mean, I compare this to the iceberg model, right? When we see an iceberg, we only see that tiny peak of the iceberg, right? Which is probably 5%. I make assumptions of people just by looking at them, right? If I see you, I'm going to see a person that probably identifies as a Black or African American woman. If I see that you're wearing certain symbols, if you're wearing like a chain with a cross, right away I'm going to say that you're religious or that you're a Christian person. If I see a ring on you, I'm going to assume right away you're married, right? So there is certain symbols and certain things that we look at. And that's just diversity in a very raw way of describing it, right? I mean, I'm seeing somebody that looks different than me, somebody that may have different hobbies, different things, but I don't know, right? So I need to be able to engage with you, to be able to see that bottom part of the iceberg. And I have to be intentional about that, right? I mean, it could be that maybe you're not married. Maybe that's something that your parents or somebody gave you as you know, it's like something that has sentimental value. Maybe you have a different religious belief or not have a religious belief, but I need to be able to engage with you to be able to understand those things and respect you and accept you for who you are, right? I mean, and that right there is including you in the conversation, right? That happens at work. When we see people at work, we tend to hire, or we tend to, sometimes we're like, oh, we need to hire people that look different, right? But it doesn't do us any good to hire somebody that's different if we are really not going to engage in those differences, right? So that's what inclusion does. And when you get to know these people, and when you get to know all their differences and what they stand for, and what their life experiences, how their life experiences have shaped their lives, then you start creating opportunities that fit those life experiences, right? And that's what equity is, right? I mean, there is a picture somewhere of the little kids trying to watch a game, and there is like the person that can watch it perfectly, and then there's equality, like kind of like somebody in a chair or something like that, right? I mean, we shouldn't even have to have that. The system should be in place in a way that everybody can see that baseball game within their own personal experiences, right? And to be able to get the most out of those experiences in the different areas. So that's what equity is, right? So we have the mere presence of diversity, right? The things that make us unique. But then you feel included within it because people engage with you and they value your opinion and they value those perspectives and they value those differences. And then because of that, there are opportunities that come to you, opportunities that are made in a way that fit those life experiences you have or those differences that you have. And that's what equity is. I don't know if that makes it a little bit clear or if I'm confusing everybody, but they're all interrelated, right? I mean, we cannot talk about one without the presence of the other. And then all that, I mean, when we are striving towards equity, right? I mean, then we need to have a social justice mindset, right? I mean, what does that mean? That we want equity for everybody, that we want same opportunities for everybody. A lot of the times people say, well, people of color are always asking for more, right? And I always say, it's not that people of color are asking for more. They're asking for the same opportunities, right? It's like the ability to be able to do the same as everybody else and to have a fair shot at it.
That's great, Sylvia. You made a lot of great points, and I definitely can understand the distinction between those terms and then how they are interconnected as well. We talked about, related to diversity in particular. So, a lot of folks want to get hung up on stats or numbers, right?
Yeah.
So tell us why that's not where we should focus. Where should we focus when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Numbers are important, right? I mean, numbers are important because we cannot learn from others if we don't have the people to learn from. So numbers are always important. But I think that, so again, without the people, without the difference, without the different identities, without the different viewpoints, we will not be able to learn, right? So numbers are important, but they're not what's most important. We can have a room full of people with different backgrounds, right? But we need to understand, and that's something that's really important, and that what's happening in this country and what has been happening has nothing to do with individual choices. It's not that I wake one day and I say, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be mean to this person, right? I mean, it's not an individual thing. Now, yes, there's individuals that are taking advantage of how the systems have been in place, right? So when people say the systems are broken, I always say, no, systems are not broken in this country. Systems are working in the way that they were meant to be working, right? Because they were meant to really benefit those that hold majority identities. And sometimes people are afraid to name those. And the systems in this country are meant to benefit white, middle class, especially male identities, right? I mean, those are the ones that hold kind of like all the advantages in a lot of different ways, right? So systems are working perfectly fine, right? I mean, they were established in that way. So what is it that we need to do? We need to disrupt those systems, right? So it's not about the individual biases or the discrimination or the racial discrimination, right? I mean, the racial discrimination is systemic. It happens in every single system in this country. So again, numbers are important, but then the inclusion of those numbers is what's really important. And then the opportunities of being able to disrupt those systems, right? To be able to offer equity. So I don't think that one is more important than the other, that one comes before the other. I think it's a combination of all of them, right? And understanding that we all benefit from the systems in one way or another, right? So sometimes it's really hard to criticize those systems because that means that we have to give up some power in a lot of ways. But if we want to achieve full equity and full social justice and the same opportunities for everybody, we have to think about it from a completely different perspective, not from an individual perspective, right? I mean, we cannot keep on saying, oh, I'm not a racist because I have a Black friend. I'm not a racist because I have a Latino friend. Because just by saying those things, you are actually tokenizing the people, right, that are close in your life. when we say in something that's we are trying to change a lot, especially we hear a lot of kids or a lot of parents saying, I'm teaching my kid not to see color. And that is completely the wrong approach, right? If you don't see color, then um, you're not really paying attention to the experiences of those people that identify within the that identify as people of color, right? You're not really accepting that that Black people in this country, like Black and brown people in this country, have different experiences, right? So when you say I don't see color, you're saying I don't recognize the struggles that you are going through, or the struggles that your ancestors had to endure, right? So it is important for us to talk about those things with our kids, to talk about those things with our families, right? I mean, um, the again, we cannot pretend that those issues are not happening right now, because they're going to happen. As you said, it's a pandemic. It's not a pandemic that just started like COVID-19, right? I mean, it's a pandemic that's been affecting this country and a lot of different countries in the world, but this country in particular for many, many years, right? I mean, so when people say there's no racism anymore, right? I mean, that finished a long time ago. I mean, that is simply not true, and it's showing right now.
Yeah, most definitely. I think about a couple things that you said. So there's, obviously systemic issues in the way of progress, right? And so considering how we evaluate that, unravel it perhaps as a nation, that's a journey and a commitment we've got to, all be locked arms to commit to. And then there's the personal side of it where, people believe that change happens one conversation at a time, perhaps. So I think, perhaps the combo of those two things helps us get to where we can be in a more equitable space. So if we think about the conversations that people can have at that individual level, like you were talking about with family members, friends, coworkers. So talk about how what unconscious bias is and how that might get in the way of those kinds of discussions.
Yeah. So again, it's accepted that we all have our own biases, right? I mean, we all. I was reading the other day this article that how young kids are when they start noticing differences, right? I mean, and noticing that they have to be afraid of certain people, right? Or and it's part of the socialization process, right? I mean, for some kids, we're not born with biases, right? I mean, once we're born, it's our own family, our own environment, the media, the way that things are, that what we see on TV, that's what is going to build up on those biases, right? Um, but we all come with that, right? I mean, I have my own biases that I struggle with and that I check every day, right? I mean, and I have to be very conscious and very intentional. When I see one of my biases coming up, I'm like, okay, Sylvia, you can't do that, right? I mean, you can do that. And I started noticing that I was passing those same biases to my daughter, right? So I started noticing that she was reacting a certain way towards certain people. And that for me was kind of like a wake up call, right? Saying, I'm like, wait a minute, this cannot be it, right? I mean, I am doing exactly the same thing that I work against, right? I mean, in terms of allowing people to be respectful and to understand and to engage with difference, right? Um, but we all have them, right? I mean, it's part of human nature. We all have our own biases, right? I mean, there is this idea that you're walking down the street. I mean, and we have heard that a lot of the times, and I can guarantee that if I ask and you are vulnerable about answering this question, um, a lot of you would raise your hand. I myself had the same bias when I came to this country, and it was very interesting for me because I was coming from a different country. And still, the moment that I was walking on the street and I saw especially a Black man, I kind of like, moved myself and I said, why am I doing this, right? I mean, that why. And it's just starting to say, why is it that I'm doing this? Why is it that I am feeling this kind of like reaction in my body, in my physical body, the way that I'm reacting, and in my in my mental state. And then I found out that it was based on the things that I had seen on TV, right? And the messages that friends had given me. And it's this like, you don't go to this part of the city because it's dangerous, right? I mean, but when we say don't go to this part of town because it's dangerous, we are coding that to that's the part where people, black and brown people live, right? I have heard so many times people saying, especially the school systems, right? Oh, I'm not gonna put my kid in this particular school because there's a lot of gangs and it's very dangerous. And I'm like, is it dangerous because there's a lot of gangs, or is it dangerous because there's more racial and ethnic diversity, right? And I call people out on that, right? I mean, I call my friends out on that. I have heard people saying to my face, "Oh no, I want to go to school because it's whiter." And for me, that is like, okay, wait a minute. So when you say that, what do you mean by that, right? I mean, what is it that you want to say? What is the message that you're sending to your kids, right? So, um, and sometimes, or most of the time, those biases are unconscious. We don't even know we have them, right? I mean, we are walking through life with these things. Um, and they're so ingrained in our brain that we think it's just part of life, right? I mean, that there's certain things that we believe because that's just the way they are, right? So it's hard, right? I mean, and again, I struggle and I fight with my own biases every single day. And I check myself every single day, and I yell at myself every single day because I'm myself, you cannot be doing that, right? I mean, don't do that. Don't say those things. Don't mention those things. Don't use those phrases, or don't judge. Don't assume things unless you know, right? I mean, unless you actually have proof that that's what's happening, right? So, and biases could be maybe less dangerous, right? I mean, I heard somebody in one presentation saying, "Yeah, I have a bias against people with tattoos." Right? Um, so when you think about it, it's not that the person feels threatened by somebody with tattoos, but think about what happens with the other person, right? If you are holding a position of power, right, within your organization, for example, and somebody comes for a job interview, and that person may look or may seem perfectly capable on paper, but because of your bias, the moment that you interview that person in person and you see that they have tattoos, how is that going to affect how you're going to react to that person, right? So again, some of those biases might not be like dangerous in the way that you feel physically threatened, but they're dangerous for the other person, right? I mean, dangerous for the person that you are limiting opportunities to, or that you are making assumptions of just because of something that you believe in your brain happens, right? I mean, and you can say, I don't like tattoos, and that's fine, right? But there's a difference between I don't like tattoos and I assume this about somebody with tattoos. And I'm just putting that example as an example, right? There are some biases that are a little bit stronger and that are a little bit dangerous. And I think that those are the biases that we need to really dismantle, right? I mean, when we're talking right now, the biggest issue, policing, right? I mean, what's the assumption of police when they're stopping a person of color, right? I mean, and there's wonderful police officers that are just trying to do their work, right? But when you hear the other side, when you take the time to engage with people of color, and you hear how parents have to talk to their kids so young in their life about this is what you have to do when you engage with the police, right? I mean, it's conversations that you don't, the regular white people have to engage with their 16-year-old, right, when they're about to start driving. So there are biases that are a little bit that have deeper consequences, right? I mean, I believe, but we all have those.
So, Sylvia, I think our time is dwindling down,
And I can
and
keep
this
on
has
talking
been a
about
really
this.
good discussion. I'm like, I have so many more questions for you. But as we wrap up, I definitely wanted to maybe allow you to offer, what's your top couple of tips, for the women on today as they think about having these courageous conversations, being brave, having dialogue with family, friends, employees, and so on and so forth.
I think the first thing is engage in conversation, right? I mean, just don't be afraid. Don't be, I think sometimes it's easier not to engage because life is so hard, right? And we are going through so many things right now, right? I mean, I think that everybody's being affected in different ways right now, with everything that's happening, right? So sometimes it's easier just to stay within our own bubble and to stay within our own, our own comfort zone, right? So I think my advice is like, don't be afraid to ask, right? Don't be afraid to engage with those that are different from you. Um, don't assume that somebody else, because they look like you, are not different from you. I mean, I think that that's the main thing too, right? I mean, don't make judgments that if you see somebody that looks like you, that, oh, I'm okay with this person. I can say these things with this person, right? I mean, it's really understanding that we're all bring our own unique differences, and the only way that we're going to be able to really see the bottom of that iceberg is by engaging, right? So, and I think that by engaging, you also will learn a lot about yourself. And I think that that's the other thing that I would put out there. You cannot engage in difference. You cannot engage with people that are different from you if you don't first take a look inside yourself and really recognize what your identities are, right? I mean, unless you know what are some of the identities that you hold and how they intersect, you will not be able to have an authentic relationship with somebody else, right? So I think that is both ways: is do a little bit of self reflection and self in, journey, and seeing how your identities benefit you, how your identities give you some disadvantages. I think that's important, right? I mean, as women, we know that we have certain disadvantages too, right, over men, and we fight for those. And so what are those, how those identities really give you advantages and disadvantages, and then you'll be able to really engage in conversation with others and learn also how their identities give you advantages and disadvantages, and what is your role in providing those to them as well.
This has been great, Sylvia. I appreciate the conversation, and I feel braver already on, engaging in some more discussions myself. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
At this time, we do have a few minutes. Does anyone have a question for our fabulous speaker? If you do, please drop it in the chat box and we will see if we can't get that right to her. And I think
we can see the
you can see the chat box perfect. So we'll give just a second, see if anybody comes up with the chat.
Erin, I love what you said. We actually use the acronym DEI instead of DIE. Yeah, I don't think it would look good to talk about diversity, inclusion, and equity and use the acronym DIE. So we say diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's usually the term that we use around is DEI.
Good point. Any questions from our audience?
I'd love to second some of the thank yous that are being put there in the chat bar. I agree. I think that this has been such great content, and I agree. It has definitely helped me. I had a little advantage because I did get to speak with both of our speakers this week in advance of today. And so I had already mentally prepared myself to really advance my journey. But thank you both so much for your words and your content. We've got a great question about recommended books. Are there any books you recommend to help us better our authentic relationships? I love that question. I'm pretty sure it came from Maury Sauer.
I think there's a lot of books right now that are very popular. I am sure that some of you have already engaged. Adil, and our common read this year is Bias by Dr. Eberhard, and that's a really good book where she uses a little bit of research that she has done, but also complements the research with personal narratives, and it's very entertaining, and it's very good. It's a really good book. I can send you a list of books. There's so many books that I can think of, right? I'm just the first ones that come to my mind right now are the ones that we're using actually this year here at Elan. We're using that. We're using White Fragility, the Division of Sin and Life, and I see Felicia Massey is in there too. We use that for our divisional book last year. White Fragility is also a very good book to read and to explore and to reflect on. How to Be an Anti-Racist by Kendi. We just had an amazing talk with him. Elan, and I will say, I mean, Elan has a lot of great opportunities. So right now in this virtual world, everything is open to everybody. So check out the Elan page as well. I mean, and all these conversations have been recorded too. So.
Sylvia, I was going to say that, and to all of our attendees, this event today is being recorded, which means we're capturing a lot of information here that will be available to those that did not have the opportunity to attend today. So Sylvia, if you and Tammy both have just a few minutes after your session as we move into the keynote, and you want to put some books, titles, and authors in the chat bar, that information can be captured, and then we can refer back to that. Our attendees, because I'm seeing a lot of people say that we would love to have a list.
Absolutely, I can do that.
Well, thank you, Sylvia. This has been an amazing conversation, and we look forward to getting your list of great books to take an opportunity to read.
And I'm actually seeing some books there already, so I'm about to write those too.
Well, we are going to move into our keynote speaker opportunity. And I think you're in for a great treat. So I'm going to give you a little background about her. When you're looking for an internationally recognized communicator who ignites the atmosphere with contagious enthusiasm and passion for purpose, you have but to look directly to Dr. Gail Hayes. Dr. Gail is an award-winning author of over 30 books, a race relations consultant and speaker, and has been called a conduit and bridge between the races, the genders, the generations, and the political parties because of her unique ability to paint pictures with words to promote understanding with communities. Because she enjoys helping organizations create new ways of doing business in today's changing culture, she serves on the advisory council of the American Diversity Report and on the Leaders Council of the Women's Business Collaborative of Washington, D.C. She is also a thoughtful leader, executive leadership and book coach, and media personality. Because she lived in Asia for 4 years and in Europe for 12 years, she can communicate across cultural lines and often speaks on diversity and race relations. She also serves as the first Black female law enforcement officer and firefighter right next door in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and as the first Black chair of the Orange County Commission for Women, and was recognized by the governor for her work. While living in Europe, Dr. Gail also founded and served as the director of the European Executive Women's Forum, the first active European network of the National Association for Female Executives. While in Europe, she served as a training consultant for the Offices of Personnel Management's European Training Division, where she specialized in leadership, management, employee relations, customer service excellence, and workplace conflict resolution for a multinational workforce for U.S. military EEO and EO programs for civilian, and military personnel in Europe and Korean Command. Her favorite place on earth is wherever she and her children, Joshua and Gabrielle, who are also her business partners, can love and laugh together. So without further ado, you can see we have a great speaker. She is going to speak to us today. Her topic is Fire Dancers Arise. So Dr. Hayes, I turn the floor over to you. I think you have to unmute. It's okay.
Am I unmuted now? Okay, good. I'm just talking. Okay. Good morning. Thank you all so much for having me here. I've listened with a great intensity to all the speakers and the message, and I really salute you, Chamber Women, for being brave enough to stand in this space, especially in light of what's going on in our world today. I mean, it's a brave place to be, because right now we got a lot of stuff going on, and as women, women usually are the ones that have something to do with the healing of the nations. We're the ones that bring the nurturing part. We bring all of that to our space. So we have a lot to do with what's going on and changing attitudes, touching some of the things you all mentioned, even with the while we were doing the yoga, and I think was it I want to say Julie. That's not her name though. I took a lot of notes. Jamie, when Jamie was talking about self-care, a lot of this, you better be taking care of yourself right now, especially in light of what's going on. But I have to say, I am a disruptor. And what that means is sometimes we get very appropriate when we're talking about very inappropriate subjects. And I'm the person that'll always say, excuse me, but what about that over there? Because people tend to forget we have the white elephants in the middle of the room, but I'll just tell you all straight up, I'm the black elephant in the middle of the room. And I'm going to tell you, I'm very direct. Case in point, I'm going to get to my presentation in just a second. I want to say this because I would have never thought that it would be popular to be black in America. But all of a sudden, people are calling for me, and I know it's because of the melanin. And that's okay with me, but it's also the melanin and the message. I'm going to give you an example. On LinkedIn, somebody reached out to me many months ago and asked me to be a part of this thought leaders group. But when I got there, it was almost all white men. And I thought, interesting. And so I settled in. We've been meeting since March. I settled in, then a few white women came, I settled in, and then what happened was, as we were coming together as a group, all of a sudden the George Floyd thing happened. Well, right before the George Floyd thing happened, we already had some unrest, as you all know, and I had one of the gentlemen reach out to me, and he says, whenever you say something, we all pause. He said, is there any way you have any content that you would like to present to the world? And I said, oh yeah, I got lots of content. But then he said, we won't need this until August. And this was probably in May. So I said, okay, or June. Then the George Floyd thing happened. So all of a sudden he contacts me and he's doing this. And this guy's from New Zealand. He says, Gail, I'm just wondering if you have any content on race relations. And I said, yes, 64 years worth. I'll be 65 next month. So he was like, well, I just wanted, it's a sensitive subject. I said, it is not sensitive. It's in your face right now. So you got to deal with this. Don't try to use appropriate languaging. Let's just talk about what it is. We got black people who are mad. So let's just go. He was like, oh my God. So basically we have, what has happened is I partnered with him and his firm out of Las Vegas. And I have a training called Eyes Wide Open. Racial bias in the workplace, unconscious bias in the workplace, excuse me. And so I talk about, and I think it might be racial bias. I don't remember, y'all. I do so much stuff. But what I talk about is I'm very disruptive. I pride myself on coming in and shaking people up so they have to see the real stuff that's on the table, because we like to tiptoe around things. And one of the things I want to say, I was listening to everything, and one of the things I want to say is, we talk about rights. We talk about women's rights. We talk about LGBT rights, but we never talk about Black rights. It's always civil rights. What does that mean? I mean, seriously, we're the only people who have not had any rights. It's civil rights. And you want to know why Black people are upset? That's one of the reasons, because we always have to be the backup singers. Everybody wants to sing about harmony and diversity, but the Black people are always the backup singers. Sometimes we like to sing a solo. Even in this time when we see people who are Black people getting killed, we still sing in background. And so it's, I tell people, somebody said to me, Gail, I'm really frustrated with all the violence and anger And I just don't understand where it's coming from. Now, I want y'all to know I don't agree with all this stuff that's going on, okay? Please understand me, all right? Y'all heard my background. I was the first Black female law enforcement officer. I got a thing for law enforcement. So can you imagine the conflict I feel right now? I'm a Black woman who was raised in white America, because I didn't live in the United States a lot of the time, who's former law enforcement. So I got a lot of inner conflict going on with what's going on, because I know that cops don't just get up and say, I'm gonna kill a Black man today or a Black woman today. They don't do that, the good ones. You do have bad ones. And I had to call out some of the bad ones when I worked there. And I'll tell you, there's some of the guys I work with are old men now, and they have seen the social media, and they say, Gail, is that what we look like? I said, yes, it is. And they were horrified. They were horrified. I said, this is what I was trying to stop when I worked with you. So they understand now what's going on, but it's very difficult because being a law enforcement officer is like omerta. You can't tell on another cop. It just does not work well, because when you're a cop, especially with me, I was no longer Black, I was blue. You get immersed into that culture. I just want to say that. But anyway, what's happening is I had a woman say to me, it's a lot of anger and violence. I said, yeah, there is. And she said, I don't understand why it's going on. And I said, I'm gonna be honest with you. I said to her, you're a beautiful, sweet, pretty blonde white woman. Of course you wouldn't. You're protected. And I said, but there are those of us who are not protected. And I said, when a baby cries and you ignore the baby, what happens? The baby cries louder. I said, and when you still ignore the baby even louder, what happens? The baby starts to throw things and yell uncontrollably, and the baby needs his diaper changed. I said, what you're dealing with now are the voices of those who have been ignored. Oh, they'll go away. They'll be okay. And I'm not sure why I'm telling you this. I guess because a lot of the things we've talked about have stirred this up in me, because I have a presentation that I'm going to go through really quickly, because I want you to know who I am and why I do what I do, because I think it's very important that we all learn that we all are critical in this fight. And I don't even want to call it a fight. I want to call it a movement. Women are really good at movements. You know, we're the ones that whisper in the ears. We're the ones that influence others. We're the ones with real power. And we can change this by what we say. And our previous speaker, you know, I know who I was so busy listening to her, Sylvia. Sylvia was talking about watching the conversations that you have. That is so critical, because a lot of stuff happens in the confines of our conversations. We let our friends get away with murder. We listen to them say all kinds of inappropriate things, and we just sit there and smile during our what? Our little coffee groups. It's just not going to work, ladies. We are the power. Believe it or not, you know what? We're so powerful that it's scary as women. It is so scary that we're so powerful, because we can speak a word or withhold a word and change somebody's day. Now think about that if we all use our power for good and not for evil. And if we didn't try to walk away and ignore what's going on, because it's very comfortable to go back to your little place and go like this, do the ostrich syndrome, but it's going to come to your world. It's going to touch you. You can't even go out and do what you normally do because of it. How are you going to change it? Just what Sylvia was saying. You got to have those uncomfortable conversations and not be offended, and if somebody has to say something that is disruptive, it's up to you to say, okay, there's a reason this person is saying this. I'm not going to judge. I'm just going to listen, because there's so much pain that has not been expressed. And when it is expressed, it's ignored. And that's what we're dealing with now. So let's see. Who is it? I recently did a video series called 5 Things You Do Not Say to a Black Person. And you know, I don't know if y'all realize it. It took a lot for me to stand in that space and be brave enough to do that. Okay, but I'd had it happen to me over and over and over and over again. And I'm saying this to you because I had to do these videos because there are too many people who say things and don't even realize it's not so much that they're offensive, it's just it's insensitivity. Insensitivity. And I'm going to name these really quickly, then I'm going to go into my presentation. One of them is, Sylvia mentioned one, it says, I do not see color. Yes, you do. You do see color. Let me tell you why you see color. You only say that to a black person. You wouldn't say that to your white friends. Oh, I don't see color. You're not going to say that to her. You're going to say that to me, which means to me that eventually in our relationship, I'm going to have to deal with the race issue with you. Okay? Because what happens is when you say you don't see color, you don't see me, and immediately I go behind the wall. And you know the old castle movies and night movies with a little slot? I go behind my slot because I know it's coming. Don't tell me you don't see color, because you know you do. And it's okay for you to see color, because guess what? I see color when I look in the mirror. I know that I'm a melanated woman. So it's okay for you to see it. But when you say you don't see it, you are minimizing or devaluing. That might not be your intention, but that's how we see it. I want to interpret that. Some of my best friends are Black. We don't care about your best friends being Black. We care about how you treat us. What you're saying to me is, I like you along with Black people. I know about Black people. No, you don't. Each one of us is different, just like each one of you is different. Y'all are different. I wouldn't judge one white woman based on all the others. I can't. I've met too many of you who are absolutely incredible, that some of you are not, just like with Black women. I don't get along with all Black women, okay? It's up to it's like the energy that passes between people. So I have someone I want you to meet. 99.999% of the time, you're trying to introduce me to another Black woman. I don't want to meet her if she doesn't have anything in common with me. You don't bring me your white friends. I mean, that's how we see it. Normally when somebody wants me to meet somebody, it's another Black woman. And I'm like, I didn't ask you to please go out and find me another Black woman to meet. Please don't do that. If you find out there's a Black woman that I have something in common with, great. Don't bring me just any Black woman you just happen to meet just because we're Black. We may not have anything in common. Check us out first. Get to know us first. Spend time with us first before you bring another Black person, because really, I don't really need you to help me find another Black person. When are Black people going to get over it? Well, we'll get over it when all this stuff stops happening, when we can talk about these conversations openly, frankly. We can talk about our pain, and you don't try to minimize it because you're uncomfortable with it. Heck, we're uncomfortable with it too. But you know what? If you let us talk about it, I had one woman tell me, you're an angry Black woman. I said, no, I'm a hurt Black woman. There's a difference in pain and anger. That hurt can turn to anger. And I said, you know, just talk. Let me talk about it so you can understand who I am. Let me put it out on the table. I already know the pieces, but I want you to see the pieces so you'll know what I'm dealing with. You may not understand it. I'm not expecting you to understand it, but I am saying if I want to have a relationship with you, you have to see my mosaic as well, because I see yours. And so I've decided that I want to connect with you. And the connecting fibers that connect our mosaics is understanding and conversation. Let me be me without you being offended, because I'm not talking about all white people when I talk about you, but I've had some experiences. If I'm sharing that with you, that means I trust you. That means I want to be in your space. So, and the last one is, what do we call you? Heck, sometimes we don't even know what to call ourselves. You know, another Black person might not like that, but sometimes it's true. Look, some people are Black, some people are African American. Don't call us those other names from the past, okay? So I had women ask me that when I was in a group of all white women. We were all authors. And I said to them, why do you want me to educate you about what to call me when I'm not in your presence? I said, why don't you call me sister? Why don't you call me friend? Why don't you call me Gail? Call me by my name. Most people know I'm a Black woman when they meet me, or you say my name, people know that. Why do you don't? And it was just the way that it was said. It was just a very intentional thing. I don't think they meant to hurt my feelings, but at the time we were having this great time. We were all authors and speakers, and I'm thinking, my God, these women are nationally known speakers, and they're asking me this as we're going into a big group of people. I'm the only Black woman, because oftentimes Black women shy away from large gatherings of white women for this very reason. But see, I was raised in the international community. And I was taken out of Black America when I was 5 years old, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So I got to figure out how to share this screen now. This is where one of my challenges happens. And let me see, screen. Oh, okay. How do I do this? Okay, just a moment. That's not the screen I want you to see. I think this is it right here. My PowerPoint. And I'm hoping I can do this. Can y'all see that? Okay, good. Okay, I believe that we all have the ability to dance in the fire, all of us, because right now, ladies, we're in the fire. We're in fire, okay? But how do you dance in that fire and not smell like smoke? Ladies, we are miraculous. We are wonderful. We are fabulous. We can do that. So, When I think of fire, when you think of fire, what do you think of? You know, it burns. You know, y'all got your stuff on mute and everything. You know, I like for y'all to unmute so you can talk to me. I don't mind hearing your voices. You will not disturb me. So if some of you want to unmute and say some things, I like interaction. Because I'm an interactive kind of girl. Okay, so if you want to talk, if I hear something, I'm saying, oh, talk to me. I like your voices, because this is what one of the things I believe that keeps us separated, and we don't listen to each other's voices. We don't listen to each other's voices. And so when finally somebody speaks, we're like, so anyway, fire burns and heat, we cook with it, and it kills if you do not respect it, but it can ignite passion. So you have to decide, how are you going to use your fire? Well, when I was 5 years old, I'll tell you about that. My passion began here with crayons. And you probably are saying, okay, what does that mean? My whole passion of life and what I do now came from a box of crayons. I always wanted this big giant box of crayons, you know, with the sharpener on the back. But my mother wouldn't buy me one of those boxes of crayons. It's a little bit about my background. I was born in Durham, North Carolina. I was one of the first Black babies born at Duke Hospital. My grandfather was a man named Tom Wall, who is a descendant of George Wall, who was the first who came to Durham, North Carolina. He was a free Black man that came to Durham, North Carolina with a family that started Trinity College, which became Duke University. He ate dinner at their table every Sunday, and he even left money in his will for them to form Duke, but Black people could not go to Duke. And that's something. So I was one of the first Black babies born at Duke. And then I stayed in Durham. That's me. You see me with the little blue dress. You can see I couldn't even sit with my legs crossed. Y'all know I had a hard time with my legs. You see my little dresses up. My little classmates were always such ladies. And my mother used to say, oh my God, you'll never be a lady. And I used to feel so bad because I didn't do well. My ribbons would always be hanging. And I was always doing something that was very, very different from other girls. And I couldn't figure out, you know, how to be a lady. So I had a dual hardship in terms of being Black and not being a lady. I couldn't stand it. And those little girls would be so sweet, and I was just rough. I just really couldn't get with it. I love wearing the dresses, but I just hated it. My mother telling me I was never going to be a lady. One thing is, she's right. I am woman, hear me roar. And just a side note, this little picture right here, these little pictures, let me tell you what I used to do. I'm the firstborn of 7 children. And at the time, my mother only had 3. What I would do, we went to Okinawa, Japan to live. And I will tell you what I would do. I so loved the freedom that boys had. You know, nobody told them to sit down and be quiet. Oh, that's just the way boys are, but they wanted us to sit down and be quiet. So what I used to do is I would get a purse and I wore dresses. Back in those days, in the early 60s, very few girls wore pants. Now I'd go outside in shorts or little tops, but I'd always carry a purse with me. Get this, in my purse was always a cap pistol, fully loaded, and marbles. And I had a little white washcloth that I used. You said, now Gail, Dr. Gail, what is that from? Well, I would go down to the marble chute with the boys and put the white washcloth on the ground so I wouldn't scar up my knees. And I would shoot marbles and I would beat them. But as y'all know how men do, they will change the rules on you. And they started beating me. I was really good at it, and I'd shoot my guns, and I looked for girls who had a similar fire, and they wanted to play with dolls. Well, I already had young brothers, young sisters. I didn't want any baby dolls. Until Barbie doll came out. But I always had this dual citizenship, if you will, where I saw things through the eyes of men, but I also felt things through the heart of a woman. My father wanted a son when he had me, but he got me. So I was born on my father's 22nd birthday. So I had this insight into men, because my father would say and do things that I thought were totally ridiculous, but I would always be the one that questioned him about that because I wanted to understand. So we go to Okinawa, and here are my pictures. But my life changed after we left. You see, the one in the center is my first grade picture. The one to the right is my 3rd grade picture, and the one to the left, on the left, is my 4th grade picture. Or you might say, well, where's your 2nd grade picture, Dr. Gail? I'm going to show you in just a minute. When I went to Okinawa, I went to elementary school there, 1st to the 4th grade. My mother bought me this box of crayons. How many of you remember the jumbo box of crayons? You know, the jumbo crayons, the real thick ones you had to use like in kindergarten and 1st grade? Well, my mother bought me these, and I was very upset with her for buying these big old thick crayons for me. And I begged her. I said, Mom, when I go to the second grade, can you get me the 64 box of crayons? And that she did. And this is what I really wanted. And she bought those for me. And let me tell you a little story. The first thing I did, because I love to color, was to find my skin color in this box of crayons. And I found my skin color. And by this time, I had this little boy who sat in my class in the front of me like this. And he used to just look at me, and he told me I was pretty and smart. And I believed him because my grandmother always told me I was pretty and smart. So I figured we need to take it to the next level, okay? The next level was this. I asked him to be my boyfriend. Now what happens with us, those of us who are interested in men, and you think my little girl, come down to a 7-year-old mind for a minute. If I found my color, what do you think I did with his color? I found his color too, right? So when I asked him to be my boyfriend and he shook his head no, I thought maybe he didn't hear me. So I repeated my demand to him and I said, I need for you to be my boyfriend. Well, he shook his head no, so I said, okay, can you tell me why you can't be my boyfriend? And then he changed my life with one finger. He rubbed the back of my left hand. And I looked at my hand, I said, what's wrong with my hand? I will never forget his words to this day. Remember, now this was 58 years ago, because I'll be 65 next month. He said to me, you're black. I thought maybe it was something wrong with him. And because, I said, I am not black. I am sienna. Because that was the color in the crayon box. And then I said, oh my God, he is dumb because he does not know his colors. Who let him in the second grade when he's so dumb? I will never forget this. And he says, you're black. I said, I'm not black. I'm sienna. I said, okay, if I'm black, what color are you? And he said, I am white. And he was the prettiest little blue-eyed, blonde-haired boy I'd ever seen in my life. He said, I'm white. And I said, no, you're not. You are salmon pink. Remember, I found his color. So he got upset with me. And for the first time, ladies, I saw the back of his head and his big pink puffy ears because he was angry. They were red. He was really angry with me. And I remember going home and talking to my mom. And I said, Mom, this boy called me a bad name today. He called me black. And my mother looked at me and smiled. She said, well, that's what they call us, baby. They call us black. They call us colored. They call us Negro. And I remember my question to her. I said, Mama, who is they? Because they need a box of crayons because they don't know their colors. That was my first experience with racism. And you know how silly that is. Think about it, reducing it to the eyes of a child. This is so silly, the stuff that we're dealing with right now. So what happened was this. We got our school pictures. And I never realized, ladies, I've been looking at this picture, I'm gonna cry, for 58 years and never realized how that impacted me. Because here is my second grade picture. I scribbled over my face with ink right after this happened. And it has been there, ladies, for 58 years. I never saw anything wrong until a couple weeks ago. It hit me, oh my God. That's how this impacted me as a child, for this little boy to tell me something about it. But it did not have the negative experience that perhaps forces of life wanted me to have. I went on and I started looking at that crayon experience and teaching others because of it. Teaching others about, what did you call it? The mosaic, the tapestry of the beauty. If we all had just one color, we would not have the beauty of the tapestries. We wouldn't have that. You have a tapestry that's composed of all the pieces of your life. Someone else has something that's composed of all the pieces of their life. It's when you connect is when that tapestry really takes on a power. It takes on an energy that is life-changing when you connect with someone who is different from you. I love different kinds of people because I was raised in the international community. I'm usually the only black in most of the circles that I attend. I just go right in and I refuse to leave. I guess I'm kind of like that clown, the clown people hit it and it bounces back. I refuse to leave. And I have had black friends say, oh, you're just going over there with the white people. You like the white people. I said, no, I just like all the people. I said, they have resources I need, information. I said, and guess what? I got something they need too. I got the rhythm and the beat and the spice. So I'm going, I'm staying. Now you can stay over here if you want to. And what I do is I educate my white friends. They know they can come to me. I have women who are my friends who are in high places, who are journalists. They say, Gail, I got a question. They can ask me anything. And I said, now look, girl, you know you can't go out there and say that to everybody else. But let me tell you why this is happening. I'm one of those people, the sounding board, because that's the way the Creator created me. Being in the international community, being raised in the international community, I have this gift, if you will, it analyzes my audience in such a way, because of my crayon box experience, it has made me ready for this day and this time, for this season, for what we're going through now, where I'm a translator and an interpreter for all different sides. So, as many of you know, I was in law enforcement. That's me at the police department in Chapel Hill. I was a public safety officer, so I was police and firefighter simultaneously, and I worked with mostly white men. And I will tell you that they were not all what they call rednecks. A lot of them were rednecks. Yeah, they admit they're rednecks. Tobacco chewing, mirror shade wearing cops. So let me tell you something. After a minute, it didn't matter what color I was. As long as I could do the job, they were good. And I have many of them still in touch with me today, brings tears to my eyes, because I walked in there fearlessly and said, I deserve to be here. And I had to prove myself. I even saved a fire captain's life in a burning house because I was determined. I went in intentionally, not because I wanted to prove that women had the right to be there. It had nothing to do with women. It had everything to do with me and how I saw myself. I just decided I'm going to do it. Nobody's going to tell me I couldn't do something. I was just a determined little thing. And I ended up going in there and making lots of friends. I wouldn't say bosom friends like my women friends, but I can call on some of them now. Some of them are very, I don't know, you guys live in Alamance County. You know the sheriff of Orange County, Charles Blackwood? Charles Blackwood used to run up to my patrol vehicle and say, yeah, I'm going to be in law enforcement. I'd go, oh God, who's going to hire him? He would come up to me in my patrol vehicle. He was not in law enforcement at that time. I worked with his big brother, Gary. And he would come up to me and talk to me and just tell me what he wanted to do. And I said, okay, Charles, okay. I said, and then I finally said, this guy's determined. And look at him. He's the sheriff of Orange County today. And we've been knowing each other for years, long before he knew me. I was there from 1979 to 1985. So Charles knew me when I was riding around looking like this in a patrol vehicle. And I'll never forget, he has reached out to me and saluted me several times for my service, for kicking the door down for women. And most specifically, women of color in the Chapel Hill Police Department. So part of this whole thing, ladies, is you must tell your story. You must allow others to do the same, even if it's uncomfortable for you. So many times people will tell you things, and because you've decided who they are before they open their mouth, you don't hear them. Even if somebody doesn't want to hear it, you got to tell it anyway. Someone's waiting to hear your voice. It's just like Sylvia was saying. You have to engage in conversations with people. Your voice is important. Your voice is critical, especially as women. Your story could offend someone, but tell it anyway. Your story can save someone, tell it anyway. Your story could awaken someone, so tell it anyway. Your story is what makes you you. You are the missing component to all of this stuff that's going on. As women, we influence. We can either do one of two things. We can either influence or infect the atmosphere. Let me repeat that. We can either influence or infect the atmosphere. That's what we bring to the party, ladies. The eyes. The eyes. We influence people. We are the influencers. You know, you can speak a word and infect something and move back into smile, or you can influence it and watch people change. That's what we bring to the party. We are that powerful. If we could just only see how powerful we are. Sometimes I want to just shake my sisters and say, I usually talk to uteruses, okay? It doesn't matter about the melanin. I mean, because we don't understand how powerful we truly are. Oh my God, how powerful we truly are as women. We bring stuff to the party that nobody else can bring. As a matter of fact, we make the party. Listen, offense is a deadly fire. So many of us are offended by what we see, offended by what people say. Offense is a deadly fire. Do not be offended because somebody sees the same picture from a different view. And I say Kim's story. My younger sister, telling this story, my younger sister used to be the president of the union at Fort Bragg. And I'll never forget what she told me. She said she was a new commander for Fort Bragg, North Carolina, came in, and he wanted to meet with her because she was, quote unquote, a pretty powerful woman because she had sued the military and won. because they didn't give her what she needed. And anyway, she won. So this man comes in, he's sitting there having coffee with her, and he says, you know, Miss Bunyan, he says, there's two sides to every story. And she said, no, sir, there are not two sides to every story. And he was taken aback because, you know, he's the commander. As they were sitting there talking, there were three soldiers that were walking by. And she said, you see those three soldiers? If you ask those three soldiers what they saw with us sitting here, you'd get three different stories. One would say, oh my God, Mrs. Bunyan's in trouble. She's talking with the garrison commander. Another one would say, uh-oh, Mrs. Bunyan is giving him some information. Somebody else is in trouble. And the third one would say, I got to go home because I don't want to know what they're talking about. Now, they all three saw the same thing, but they all three had a different picture. And all three pictures were correct. So whenever you're dealing with a person and their story, remember, it's how they view it. And you have to listen sometimes. So many times we make major decisions based on limited information. There used to be a man on the radio, I used to listen to him all the time. He's called Paul Harvey. And he said, the rest of the story. Paul Harvey would always take a situation where people had judged something based upon limited pieces, and he would give you the backstory so you could have the whole story so you could see. Sometimes people react or act out of a place of pain that you know not of, or a place of protection that you know not of. People do things for their own reasons. They're not always right in our sight, but there's always the rest of the story. So don't be offended if people don't agree with you. Even people with this in the same tribe and experience, they see it through different eyes. And like sometimes your tribe is not your people. I'm gonna give you an example. Right now, I'm on LinkedIn with this thought leaders meeting. It's almost all white men. Okay, I want y'all to know these are white men I'm dealing with. They're my tribe. And you're like, how could that be, Dr. Gale? Well, let me tell you something. I got on a meeting on Tuesday. These men have recommended me for businesses. They are collaborating with me because they see the passion and the power. I am unafraid of their white masculinity. Matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you what I do that a lot of women don't do. Y'all gotta work with me on this. I honor them as kings because they're kings, they got access to power. Now, you might not like that, you might not agree. I learned this in law enforcement. Men above all things want one thing from us as women, honor. Just that simple. Honor. And what do we give up by giving that? I mean, I lose nothing by saying, oh, kings, can you grant my petition? Let me tell you what. I've gone into meetings, boardrooms, where there have been two men sitting together, and they're both very powerful men, and I knew that. You know what I would do? I walk up to them and, excuse me, this is a center of power in this room. I was wondering, gentlemen, may I sit between you because I need that masculine power around me. They were fighting over who was going to move first. And what I'm saying is, and I needed something, I said, I'd like to talk to the most powerful man in this room, and I have a petition, and I lay it out there, and like they can't do it. I will tell you, 99.999% of the time, I get calls saying, hey, I want to help you with this. They don't do it in the open forum, but they come to me and they solve my problem. But we forget our power. Well, they won't let us in because there's a glass ceiling. Forget the glass ceiling. Go outside. The sky is not the limit. Well, they won't let me sit to the table. Heck, what do you need a table for? Women know how to set a table. We set our own table. Hire a chef. Decorate it differently. They will smell the food and then they have to pay the price of admission. I'm just saying. Anyway, that's another story because I talk to women about women's rights as well because I think it all have to manage it the same way. It's all about honor. Everything we're dealing with is about honor, honoring other people and their differences. Now I want to show you this picture so you'll understand what has happened to me in the last 2 weeks that has changed me and ignited my fire. I don't get offended easily, and I don't set out to offend people. This is what I say. I didn't come to offend, but to inform. I have not seen my little face in 58 years. And I had someone digitally restore my photo a week and a half ago. It is the first time in 58 years that I've seen my face. You talking about igniting a fire of identity, igniting a fire. I stand in a place of bravery, and I'm brave enough, bold enough, and bad enough to speak the truth, even if people don't want to hear it. My question to you is, what about you? Because in this season and this time, it is the chorus of women, the chorus of uteruses that's going to change the game. I had a woman say to me very recently, oh, I don't want to go in the room with them. Blah, 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 blah. She was talking very badly about the white men who are in power. And this is what I said to her. Oh, they're so negative. Oh, they're so this. Oh, they're so liars. Oh, no, 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 no. She's talking, talking, talking. They want me to be a part of this organization, right? And it's about women's leadership. I said, oh, time out. I said, I got a question for you. I'm listening to all the negative rhetoric, all the venom being spewed in the air. My question to you is, how is your leadership going to be different from theirs if you're speaking the same language? I said, I can't stand in here while you're bashing the people in charge. These are kings. I said, you might not like it, but right now they rule. My question to you is, we need what's in that room. How are we going to get in? Well, you can just go. I said, you better know, I'll go. I said, because one thing I understand, that men want honor, even if they are dishonorable. Even if a man is dishonorable, it doesn't cost you anything to honor him, so you can get what you need. And I said, just because they're pigs doesn't mean we have to get in the mud with them. I said, so why are we talking like this and infecting our atmosphere? Well, we need clarity to change things. This is a movement. If you're going to have a movement, there's sometimes you have to silence the negative voices because so we can all move with harmony and forward. But if we continue to stir in the mud and in the muck and in the mire, we're never going to move. Yes, it's going to be negative. Watch what you say, ladies. Watch what you say. Your words create the atmosphere. Watch what you say, and if you don't know what to say, I know Sylvia wouldn't mind having a conversation with you. I know I wouldn't mind having a conversation with you. Watch what we say to our children. Our children hear us. They hear you when you're with your coffee groups. They hear you on the phone. They see all of that, and they are not putting up with hypocritical behavior. You see who's running stuff, it's the young people. Because the grandchildren and the children, they're the ones that can't stand this because they can't stand to live in hypocritical environments. And I have a friend right now who's very conservative. Now, I ain't mad at her. She's a white blonde woman. She's been my friend for over 20 years. And her son has not talked to her for many years, 10 years. He came back into her life recently. He's liberal, and she can barely tolerate it. She says, Gail, you got to pray with me to bring him back. And I'm like, back from where? But she's really upset because he's somewhat liberal now because he sees the world through different eyes, and he sees that the status quo, those who've been in power, their power has not always been for good. So guess what? I'm gonna say this to you because I'm a little different from most Black people. I am a Black conservative. Oh, Dr. Gail, are you kidding me? I am a registered Republican. Oh, Dr. Gail, are you kidding me? How can you do that? Easy. Let me tell you why. Lean in, ladies. Somebody's got to get in the room with these people. If all of us are out there protesting and standing on the curb with signs, I don't want to go out there, my feet hurt. I go in the room with them and get my coffee and my tea and ask them questions like, why are you doing this? Who are you doing this for? And they're like, who let her in here? I had a big R behind my name. So guess what? When Governor Pence came through North Carolina, they called me to pray for him. What can I say? I went right on into the rally and prayed for him and then talked to him, and all of the congressmen said, okay, Congressman, here's something I want you to consider. They were all red-faced by the time I finished because I'm brave. So I'm like Maya Angelou. When I come, I bring 10,000 with me. God allows me to be in these places and spaces that normally people don't go into because I'm brave. I just go in there and say, excuse me, but can you do this? Excuse me, why are we doing that? And sometimes it's just a matter of just a little piece of something turning that will change the game for us all. But the conversations have got to start with the women. Y'all know we speak heart to heart, breast to breast. It's got to start with us. And then we speak to our children and let's get real. We influence our men. Ladies, we influence our men. Let's get real. So the conversation has to start with us in our heart. Where's your fire? Are you a fire dancer? Fire dancers are unafraid. They do what they need to do to get it done. They understand that yes, this is uncomfortable. Yes, this is where it seems to be a mess, but they also see at the end of the clearing, they use their fire to disperse everything else. And that's what you are. You are a fire dancer. And I want to end this with one of my quotes. Do you bring the fire? Do you bring the fire with you wherever you go? Believe it. I believe that you do. Check it out. Fire is bright. Fire is hot. Fire attracts attention. Doesn't that describe you? You see, my sister, not everyone can carry the fire. Not everyone is willing. Not everyone will take the chance of getting burned. It takes an extraordinary kind of woman to carry enough fire to light her way and the way for others. But guess what? You've got what it takes to light the world around you because you are a woman of destiny and power. So go burn it up, girl, because that's what this is about. You burning it up. That's my social media. Follow me on social media. Connect with me. If you have questions, I welcome your questions. I welcome the conversations. I welcome the connection. And look, I mean, let's just get real. We know we black and white. We know we Latino, whatever. We know that. But one thing that we have in common is we got uteruses. And if you didn't have a hysterectomy, you still had a uterus. We are women, and we can change this environment. We can do this and not inflame it. We use our fire for good and not for evil. That's what we should do. So the next time you get in a conversation and you hear someone saying something negative about people who are different from them, stop them. The next time you get in a conversation and you hear them saying something derogatory, stop them. So that's not a full truth. Because you know what? Whatever they give to you in abundance is what you're going to take back to you with you in abundance into your house, into your business, into your environment. You're going to use it for infection. Remember, you are the driving force. And just remember this, like I said, honor is everything. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If everybody would remember that, we would have a different world, and it would change what's going on right now. Honoring others, even if they're dishonorable, you lose nothing, but you gain everything, and you gain your place as a fire dancer. I'm done.
Thank you, Dr. Gail Hayes. So I would really love if everyone could take a moment, if you feel so moved to do so. If you're on fire right now, tell me and tell Dr. Hayes in that chat bar over there. I want to know how many people are on fire. I know some of you are because I got texts saying I am on fire right now. Dr. Hayes, I want you to look at that chat bar there and see the women that you have absolutely set on fire this morning. So I would like to open up. You all have the ability to raise your hand or put a question in the chat bar. The feedback there, Dr. Gail, you got some emotions rolling. You got some fires started.
Good.
This woman.
We are the change makers, ladies. We are the change makers. I am telling you in this whole thing, it's us, it's you. You are the change maker. You know that old show Bonanza? I don't know if you know, you know how they started with just a little bit of fire? That's you. You started, you burn it up. I just want you to, if you know nothing else today, know that you are the part of the movement. You are the fire. You bring the fire. That's who you are. You can stop a lot of the stuff right in your immediate area, your circle of influence. If you just stand up and say, hold up, before you do that, you're influential, all of you, or you wouldn't be here today. Every one of you is powerful, super powerful. Your superpower is influence. That's really the superpower of women. So anyway, I'm sorry, I just want to say that.
Well, the thank yous that you are getting in our chat bar right now are just incredible. And I tell you, you're a fast talker, and you had me going here and you had me going there, which is amazing. I loved it. That's where I get my fire from. Those that know me know that I don't go slow very often. So I liked it. But this is what I wrote down in big letters on my paper. Okay. Influence or infect. And I'm going to tell you right now, folks, Reagan Garrell, I'm walking away from this virtual women's symposium and I'm going to influence. I am not going to infect. And if you all feel the same way, tell us in that chat bar. I know that we are not together like we want to be together, and I cannot wait for that day. We are all fire starters in the same room together, fire dancers in the same room together. But for right now, this is how we're going to interact. So tell us about it. I am going to be an influence, and I hope that all of you will come along with us. And Dr. Hayes is leading us. Any questions? You've got to kind of keep up with all the comments in the chat bar. They're amazing. It was a phenomenal presentation.
Thank you so much for honoring me. Thank you for honoring me by allowing me to serve you in this way. I don't count it lightly. I don't take it lightly anytime someone shares their space with me, because we share our spaces with other people. And when people come into your space, you have a responsibility to guard your borders and not let everyone in. And so I take it as an honor when you allow me into your space, because you trust me. You've given me a sacred trust to present a message that will empower the women here and to influence them to be who they truly are. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. And if there are no questions, we've got some people that are committed to improving their self-care and to walking away to being an influencer. And I think that's just amazing. I tell you, I don't know about you all, but I feel very fulfilled by being with you all here today. I also want to know who's going to use their superpower for good. We talked about that in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And who's going to walk away and use that superpower for good. It's been an honor to have you all with us today. To all of our speakers, we thank you so much for instilling your knowledge on us and having conversations with us that are really going to take us forward with good intentions, positivity, and bravery. Thank you for making sure we know how to work to take care of our community and ourselves. I do want to give, on behalf of the Chamber staff, a really big thank you to our planning committee for today. And that committee was led by Allison Gant, our event planning chair for 2020. And while we have been thrown a lot of curveballs that we were not expecting, I really feel that our attendees have been really blessed this morning and are walking away from this very fulfilled. Thank you again to our sponsors. This would not happen without you. To all of our attendees, we are thrilled to announce that we will be joining you all on Friday, March 26th, 2021 for ROAR. And we are just willing this to be in person in 2021. I'm going to give you all one more chance for some questions or comments there in the comment, the chat bar. Also giving you a chance to capture any information that you may have seen come through that you want to copy and paste really quickly. And then I would also offer Allison, if you have any closing comments that you'd like to make. I'm putting her on the spot, but anything that you'd like to say as we depart today.
Just simply thank you to our committee again. As you've already said, it's an awesome committee, and the ability to pivot in this unique time, they're champions, and I'm grateful to have had the honor to serve as chair. I'm so excited about 2021. To all of our panelists, all of our moderators, you were amazing today, and simply we just say thank you, and we can't wait for 2021.
Thank you, Allison. And again, thank you all for being with us today. With this, I wish you all a terrific rest of your day and a beautiful weekend. And I wish you all well. Have a wonderful day, and I cannot wait to see you all again soon.